Just getting started in these early morning sessions is an accomplishment. The body is not particularly all that happy to be mobile, to be strong at 5 o'clock in the morning. Today, especially so, it's raining, it's wet, cold, all that stuff. And my body just wasn't happy. The hips weren't happy, shoulders weren't happy. And with those two things are not happy, you can't really do anything in the front squat. You can't do, any mobility. You can't get into range of motion. You can't get into, good positioning. So I started off with hamstring curls, try to loosen them up, got to the bar. And I don't know what it is about this particular morning, but I literally have no external rotation of my shoulder at all. I don't know what's brought that on. Maybe it's the bench press from yesterday. It's likely. And the bicep work that I did yesterday, it's all internal rotation. So this morning I'm like, okay, so this is really uncomfortable. Usually my grip on the bar is really narrow as it is because of that lack of external rotation. This morning especially so, I was just feeling like a force in my shoulder, that I wasn't all that, happy. Didn't really feel good. So then automatically the first thing that comes to my mind is Lou raises. Lou raises is an exercise that Lou himself came up with, makes sense, right? And he basically grabs usually I've seen him with a green plate, a 10 kilo plate, and he just basically does a lateral raise, but he takes it all the way to the top, basically. His arms are next to his ears. Sounds pretty good to me. So I grabbed my 5 kilo dumbbells and I tried to do a lateral raise, and I got to about, parallel to the floor, and I went, yeah, that's not happening. It looks easy when he does it, and I've seen a lot of people online do it as well. It looks very easy for them as well, but not for me. My left shoulder particularly was like cracking and popping and doing all this sort of stuff. So I thought, screw that. I'm not going to load this exercise at all. I'm just going to use my arms. As funny as it sounds and as funny as it looks, I'm there waving my freaking arms around like a freaking bird. But that was giving me a pretty good, pump to the traps and to the shoulders. And so I went with that. I ended up doing something like, I can't remember, like 8 or 9 sets of 20 of these. The reason behind that thinking was, okay, so the lats are quite tight. The lats are also internal rotators. And because, when I go to the bar and I try and get a wider grip, I literally feel my lats being stretched and my lats are restricting that external rotation. Now, when I deadlift, I feel my lats. When I bench, I feel obviously my chest and triceps and whatever. So that's kind of an internal rotator. And then you do biceps, which I feel like are also internal rotators. I could be wrong about that. So I'm doing a lot of these exercises which are internal rotating exercises. If you look at the body and you look at the way we're made up, our shoulders, most of the musculature in our shoulders are there to internally rotate. So we have very, very few and there are very little muscles that externally rotate our shoulders. So it's a losing battle from get-go. In comparison, in contrast, our hips are mostly external rotators, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's too many internal rotators of the hip at all. I'm thinking the TFL, the glute med, maybe it's some sort of hip flexor psoas, I'm not sure. I think there's like 3, maybe 4 internal rotators of the hip. So the hips are mostly external rotation and the shoulders are mostly internal rotation. So it's kind of weird like that, how we're kind of made, but it kind of makes sense. You can't squat because you lack internal rotation, and you can't front squat because you're lacking external rotation. And if you lack both, well, then you're pretty much screwed. You need internal rotation of the hip to squat, and you also need external rotation of the upper body, of the arms, of the shoulders, to be able to hold that front squat position. And what is a front squat? It's a deep upright squat. So you need all of that kind of rolled up into one nice little meal for you to be able to execute the lift. Before we even get to the whole strength side of things, pushing with your legs and the rest of it. So I thought, okay, so that's a pretty jammed up. What's the number one role in my eyes? The lats offer me. They bring my arms down, kind of like in a pull-up position. They help me raise up. So they kind of shove my elbows into my side, or so that's what they do. So then I thought, okay, let's just reverse that. Let's, continue with this agonist-antagonist conversation and just make the lats antagonist in a movement, which is basically a lateral raise. There's probably other options as well, but The Lou raise for me is like, okay, I'm putting the lats in an antagonist position, meaning they're relaxing or they're lengthening. They're not the primary mover. They're kind of the opposite of that. The primary mover, I guess, with Lou raises is the traps and the deltoids. So I did a bunch of them, and I could feel my lats kind of working, in a kind of different position, like they're kind of being lengthened. Obviously, the deltoids and the traps are getting warm and they're doing the work. So then, that's what I did. I did 8 sets of 5, 8 sets of 20. Did I make a difference in this session? I think so. My shoulders feel a little bit more warmed up and the rest of it, but I don't think I made any structural differences from that. But moving forward, that's maybe something I can do. It's always these morning sessions, man. It's always these morning sessions that have me sitting there and thinking and, okay, in the past, man, I used to come in here, man, like some 700, 600 days ago, I used to come in here and like, screw it. I have to push through, John Bros, even Abujayev, you got to smash through this, but it's not a good idea to do that, man. If your body is not in happy, it's not happy being in a position, and then you load that position, oh man, that is not a good mix, man. That is literally knocking on the door of Snap City. Please let me in. I want to snap my shit up. That's what you're doing when you do that. So if you can't move properly without the weight, and then you start loading the weight on, you're asking for trouble. And so I've made my mistakes in the past doing that. I've talked a lot about, what I think caused my hip pain. I've talked a lot about what I do to prevent hip pain. One of the most important things is to be smarter, man. So mornings like this would hurt me. It would really hurt me if I, went up to 160 on the front squat. If I went up to 180, 190, maybe even 200 on the back squat. Sure, I could probably muscle these things up, but man, my joints will be not happy. Not happy. It makes sense, right, man? It's freaking 4:30 in the morning. I wake up, I'm in here 4:45. I start moving. My body's like, the hell is going on, man? So, I've kind of developed a relationship with my body, as funny as that sounds. I'm like, okay, I'll force you to get up this early after like 5.5 hours of sleep. I get it. I'm being an asshole to you. But let's just get some blood going around. Let's just touch the bar. Let's think about weightlifting. Let's think about, body movement. And that's going to be the accomplishment for today. I'm not going to force you to do anything crazy. And that's what I do. And so a lot of the time when I come in here, I'm like, oh shit, like I don't feel good. But that's how I sell myself to, to move. And this is why I'm kind of happy to, and it's doable. If I woke up and I'm like, shit, I got to go put 180 on my back at 5 o'clock in the morning, all the freaking sirens in my head would go off. All the red flags would, come up. And body will try to do anything and everything kind of to get you away from that situation. But I've learned my way. So where do I stand now moving forward? Do I need more external rotation of the shoulder? That is absolutely right. A whole bunch of you guys have been asking me, especially in that, leg reveal video. A lot of guys are saying, oh, look, your legs are all right, but your upper body's lacking. A few of you fellas have said you got to do pull-ups and rows and whatnot. This is the funny thing about all of this stuff is that if I do pull-ups, if I do rows, I feel like I'm getting further and further away from front squats. Even though you need upper back, I feel like you don't need that upper back. It's weird, man. Like, this is the thing about, full range of motion moving. You need a position first. You need a position. And so what are some exercises that you should do to open up your lats? Obviously, you can do pull-ups and you can do rows and then stretch the hell out of your lats. In my mind right now, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, it probably makes more sense to train the shoulders. Train the shoulders. So let the lats be the antagonist, not the agonist. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about overhead press. I'm talking about lateral raises, Lou raises, these kinds of things which are forcing the lats to release for us to do these exercises. Not the other way around where we are forcing our lats to contract and get tighter to perform these exercises. See how it's like a different perspective on how we look at things? And obviously you guys know, man, like I'm not a physique athlete, man. I'm not an athlete per se at all. Like I'm just trying to get my numbers up, man. Like in the video game, I'm just trying to increase my stats, man. I want to increase my hit points, my armor and all that stuff, like all the funny stuff that we talk about. But that's basically all I want to do. And so I don't really care how I look as long as I have performance and function. And right now I don't have a function of external rotation. And what is what are some of the muscles involved in that? Of course, chest and biceps and all that kind of play a part, but nothing's bigger than the lats, man. Just type in lats, latissimus dorsi, into Google, man. The freaking thing looks humongous, man. Yeah, it's probably a thin muscle, but it covers a huge area, man. So you're gonna overcome that by doing some, rotator cuff exercise? I don't think so, man. You're gonna have to do something that opposes that muscle directly. So your traps, like the upper traps, the stuff that raises your shoulders, not depresses your shoulders, those guys need to start getting into the battle and they need to start getting beefed up and strong to oppose that lat. Because if the lat is fighting a tiny little weeny trap and deltoid muscle, it's always going to be depressing and forcing you into internal rotation. But if you start adding, these pyramids in the side of your neck, kind of like Lou and Tian Tao, like these boys have really developed traps and shoulders. They have really developed these muscles. And so all of a sudden their lats are probably just hanging there, chilling out, relaxing. That's what I need. And that's where you get your external rotation so you can grab the bar in the front squat. That's how I'm looking at it this morning. I mean, not a really good session today at all, but I'll take it. I got out of bed and I moved around a little bit, and I think it's a positive. Anyway, guys, I got to get out here and go to work. Appreciate all of you guys on the list, on the comments and Instagram. It's a freaking blessing. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.